And joining us right now to talk more about the impact of this vote, Fox 5 political analyst John Dadian.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for being here. Today's vote is largely symbolic, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the point of this no confidence, this resolution of no confidence, what does it do? What does it mean?
Well, again, in politics, perception becomes reality. So it sends a message, basically. Right. But here's an important point. Without Nathan Fletcher, the board, partisan-wise, is split 2-2. This is showing they're unified. This is showing it's not, we see the legislators just got expelled in Tennessee. Some people are saying that was partisan. Yeah. This is showing that it's not partisan. Plus, recently, as you've reported, several cities throughout the region in San Diego County have made statements, Lemon Grove, even La Mesa, ones that don't have to deal. So this is some symbolism is very important in politics.
And you mentioned, we were just talking moments ago, you're a political analyst, but you have a unique perspective here because you are former chief of staff to a county supervisor.
Right, in San Diego.
This is exactly your wheelhouse, right?
Oh, absolutely.
When something like this happens and you're a chief of staff, for example, hypothetically, how do you handle something like this, and what would make Nathan, given the circumstances, say May 15th? Everybody's saying that's so arbitrary and random. Why did he pick that? Why not just resign?
Well, what's going on is there's certain rules that they have to obey. Then there's things that are going on behind the scene. The rules they have to obey is because of the Brown Act. They can't talk to each other, in a group until they're in public session. But I guarantee you, the chiefs of staff are talking to each other, saying, how can we do this? What can we do? Etc.
Strategically, is there a reasoning for that May 15th?
Well, he's saying it's because of his health care. Because once he resigns, his health care stops. So that might be one reason. But there's certainly other reasons. But as far as what the board options are, I can give you pros and cons.
Yeah, we've had the mayor on the show. We've had other board members on the show, and everybody was talking about that date. And they would say, we don't know why that particular date. So you're saying it's because of the health care?
Well, actually, there's several reasons I could say, but that's certainly one of them. Again, we don't know what his future is. With lawsuits going on, we don't know why that's going on. I think MTS is saying they're not going to take care of his legal fees, but who knows?
A lot of people were asking why the board doesn't have the power to remove a supervisor. And it leads to the conversation of, well, how do you remove somebody who maybe hasn't quite followed the rules they're supposed to? Why doesn't the board have that power? And
the answer to your question is, as far as a county government in California, they don't. Real simple, they don't. If you look at other levels of government, let's say our assembly or state senate, they have procedures. Right. How they can expel somebody if they committed a crime or something like that. With the board, there is no option. Technically, I guess they could rule him incompetent and go to court, but there's not an official procedure. He's an elected official, and that's really one of the reasons why people are pushing before the May 15th. Is because keep in mind, democracy 101. He represents the people. Right now, the people of the 4th District don't have representation. Yep. The board meets every week on Tuesday and Wednesdays. So every week that goes by, 1/5 of the county is not represented because the rest of the board is voting on things.
Wow. Can you take us through, John? What is the process then of removing someone from office? Let's say they decide that they don't want to resign.
Again, it's county supervisor. There really isn't any. I mean, they could do drastically. Technically, I'm not a lawyer, but they could go to court. But other than that, there's absolutely no procedure because, again, I want to stress he's an elected official. Technically, the people are his boss. Your boss is the only one that can remove you. As I said, there's other legislative bodies that have procedures in place. Well, if you've got a procedure in place, then you would hear that. There's none at the county board.
Let's go back to your experience on that resume as chief of staff. If this was your person, what would you recommend? What would you advise this person? Would you say resign now if this is your supervisor?
Yes.
As chief of
Yes, I would, because again, normally I use this phrase in campaigns, but I'll use it in a government issue here, and it's called the mighty mo, the momentum. You see council members from all over, regional leaders, now are jumping. I'm not going to say jumping on bandwagon, but it's building up, etc. So who knows what his future is, a year, 10 years from now, but you don't want that stigma to say that everybody called you for resigning and you wouldn't do it. If that happens, that's going to stick with them forever.
In a time where the two sides can't agree on anything,
right?
When they agree on this, you're in trouble.
Well, that's a point. And again, to jump ahead, I'm in a minority. A lot of people think there's no way the board will appoint a successor. I think it's possible.
Really?
They could cut a deal.
Interesting.
Who are the people that are being talked about right now to possibly take this position? If the board is going to appoint come May 15th. when the,
Well,
the seat is
I would tell
empty?
you names of people who are going to run, but I don't want to speculate who the board
Drop
appoints.
those names. Let's
Well,
come
let
on.
me to answer your question directly.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why I think it's a possibility they could appoint, because it's a 2-2 split, right?
Right?
First of all, the two Republicans could say, we could agree on a moderate Democrat. The Democrats could say, we could agree on a moderate Republican. So that's step one. Step two would be that they could appoint somebody if they, so they would interview people for the position. If they asked he or she, would you be a caretaker? Would you pledge not to run again? And that way the 4th District would have representation. Et cetera. Now, so that's why I think it's possible. But here's the other, I told you pros and cons. Here's the other, some of the pros and cons is if they do a special, if they can't agree and appoint somebody and they do special election, it's kind of a lengthy process. They have to call the date for, they can't do it until he officially resigns. So let's say May 15th. There's a formula about how many days out and all that. That's under the Secretary of State. Then there's a special, and if the person doesn't win in the primary, then there's a general. So that's going to be many long months until somebody's in that seat, and that's why it hurts the 4th District.
Wow.
Many millions of dollars too.
That's one of the biggest reasons.
Wow.
Again, you appoint somebody, especially if you get their pledge. They can't hold anybody legally to say I won't run again, but they can ask them in an interview.
I like that term, the caretaker. It's special in special election just means expensive.
It always does.
A lot of money to do that. So we'll see if they appoint.
I think Chula Vista has one coming up in November.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can consolidate or not.
All right, John Tadian, thanks again for the
Thank you very
insight. We
much.
appreciate
Thank
it. We'll be
you.
talking again, I'm
bet.
sure. Appreciate that.